was either parents or those kind of coaches who just kind of read up on a few things. I remember actually like seared into my brain. I was 7 on like a travel team, and the coach of the team didn't know what offside was, and he was trying to explain it. He was trying to explain it to us,
Yeah.
and I knew what it was because I was watching the game all the time. I had my dad who used to, play. My granddad played pro, so like they taught me all this stuff already. And
Hmm.
he was arguing with the assistant coach, and they were trying to figure out what it was, and we were just sitting there all confused, like what's going on here? Our coaches, they don't even know what they're talking about. So it happens a lot. It's just because I don't know the reason. Maybe it's a lack of interest. Maybe it's better these days. I'm not sure. But when I was a kid, it was pretty bad. So
Okay.
it's definitely something they need to
Wow.
look at. Yeah.
I mean, that's a good place. Better. I mean, England. I mean, I'm gonna guess right now. I'm not 100% sure. If I'm gonna guess what kind of fan you are, you look like a Liverpool fan to me. If
I'm
I'm
a
being
Liverpool fan, man.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
figured it. I'll be honest right now. I was talking to some friends of mine last year. I told them I was like literally City. They look better, but I was like, if Liverpool can play to the potential I see they are, then I don't see a weakness. And I was saying that last year. I was like, listen, if
Mhm.
you get all of them firing off, I don't see how. Because City are like they're perfect at what they do, but if
Mhm.
Liverpool are playing the best they can, they're perfect at almost everything. They're just a completely balanced team.
Oh yeah, he's built like a perfect. Yeah, he's made players you wouldn't think could contribute into like important players. Like our midfield is not a star-studded midfield or anything, but he's got them working better than everyone else. I mean, the most star-studded players we have are front line, but he's done a really good job of. I love Klopp. He's done such a good job at recruiting because we were like 0 to nothing before he came in. I think we were in like 8th place or something 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Man, it was mad.
I remember in one of his first interviews that he said, I believe he said like, judge me in like 4 years, 4 seasons.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
now I'm looking back at it, I'm
yeah. Good job, man.
like,
Champions League, and then you know, bar a catastrophic meltdown this season, hopefully a title. So he's the real deal. He has the long term vision. He's cool too because he came in immediately, and like the number one quote that everyone was throwing around is like he said, we have to turn Liverpool into from doubters into believers. And you're talking about like mentality. This guy's a mental giant. If anyone
yeah.
can prove that just the right mentality for players will make the player. This guy's shown it. He's turned players that would have been sold years ago into starters or contributors like Adam Lallana, players like that. Even though he's been injured,
Yeah.
he was on his way out, and then he became one of our most important players before injury.
I mean, yeah, there's just so much. I honestly have nothing but praise for the guy.
Yeah.
I've been watching. I've been actually. I say my favorite player of that whole thing before he got injured was Ox. I'm an
Oh,
Arsenal
dude,
fan.
Yeah.
When I was watching him,
Oxford,
I was like, I can't hate you. I can't hate you, man. I don't care where you
man.
go. You were just
Are you
amazing.
an Arsenal fan?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough times. It's been, you
Sometimes,
know,
man. Yeah.
honestly, I have to say, I mean, in terms of, I've never been someone who's been like so harshly critical of a player, but I've never been completely on board with the fact that Salah is like a world class player. I think
Yeah.
he's pretty good. I think Mane is scary.
Mane, yeah, he is. It's like Salah. Salah's a weird one because he had that one season where he just crushed it on goals. He's definitely world class. He does things that go unnoticed. Where I think Mane has a better end product. Like Mane will just run at people, and beat them, and score, and just like set up stuff like nuts. Like when Mane's on fire, he's unstoppable. Salah will do like Salah's consistency is a bit iffy. That's the only problem he has. But like yesterday against Bournemouth. Salah was world class again. Like he scored a
That
good
back
goal. He
heel
set up an
assist.
amazing assist. Like he's like when he's
Yeah.
playing like that, he is 100%. But I actually think Mane's probably that. If I had to put one in the team, I'd put Mane in the team for sure. Firmino's usually as well. He's the guy who does all
Oh,
the stuff in the
yeah.
background where it sometimes gets unnoticed. But he's out of all three, he's kind of the link up guy. He's he's 100% world class. A lot would fall apart if he wasn't in the team consistently.
Definitely. Do you
Yeah.
think the Ballon d'Or went to the deserved person?
I mean, I will always argue it should have gone to Van Dyke, but
Well,
it's hard to
here's
not
the
give it to Messi, honestly. I mean, like if there was ever going to be a time like someone was going to get him, that wasn't Ronaldo or someone, it would have been this year because
yeah.
Van Dyke. It was the same thing. Like Liverpool deserved to win the title last year, but you couldn't deny City because they also did well, and it's the same. Like Van Dyke, if he got it, no one would say you didn't deserve it, but Messi's just a freak of nature, so. There's not much you can do. It's insane. I
Yeah.
can't watch Messi and not say that he deserves everything that he gets. Really, that's the thing.
Yeah, he's
Maybe there'll be
just
another. Maybe
amazing.
maybe if we win the Premier League and something else this year, Van Dijk will have another shout. Or Mane. I wouldn't mind seeing if Mane has a stellar season. He might
I
be in
was
the
a
right. Got
yeah.
fourth or third this year. Third, yeah, he got third. Mane.
No, it was Salah. Salah, I think he got. Didn't he get third?
I think Salah got fifth. It was. I know it was. I think it was
Yeah,
Messi,
you're right. You're right. It
Van
was
Dijk,
Mane who got
Salah,
third.
and then Ronaldo got fourth. Did he? Yeah, Ronaldo got fourth and Salah. Well, yeah, it was third and fifth. I don't know which one, but Salah or Mane. Hopefully Mane. He definitely played better.
Yeah, yeah. I'll definitely say over the course. Liverpool. I'm honestly just looking. I'm like, I don't know who's going to take them on because at this point, I'm like, I'm giving City a pass this season. They can't. That's too many injuries. That's like the equivalent of you guys losing Trent
Yeah,
Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, Van
and
Dijk,
Van Dijk.
and Firmino. That's like the equivalent.
Yeah, yeah. It's just one of those seasons. Like it just happens, and it's. I mean, that was the only thing we thought would stop us this season if we got like if Van Dijk gets injured, the defense falls apart. Yeah, Robertson and Trent get injured. That's like who knows how many assists and setup. And then Firmino, I mean that, like I said, he's the whole link up guy. So I mean, I'm not complaining, but
Oh yeah, well, I
but
would be. Yeah,
next year will probably be a lot tighter. I'm sure, make it a little more competitive. Although this year's not over. I'm not, I haven't been alive since they won the title, so I'm not getting ahead of myself just yet until we're actually mathematically um, absolutely going to win it. But
I'll be honest, man. I think, and for an Arsenal fan, I hate to say this. I think you guys can go unbeaten. Don't jinx it. I know you don't want to jinx it, but I
oh
actually think
yeah,
I'm looking at you guys. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter how anyone challenges you because I mean Leicester. That's really the only ones, and I'm like, even then.
yeah. We'll see. We'll see. They look good, but I mean they don't have depth. That's the only problem with them. So they'll probably get Champions League football, which will be huge for them. And then it'll be City, probably them, and maybe Chelsea. It looks like at this moment, but I think like it's gonna take. We're the only way we're not winning it is if we become our own worst enemies, or we have like just so many injuries that we can't keep it
Yeah.
together. That's all that's gonna happen because we're I think 14 points ahead of City, which would be and 11 points ahead of Leicester. And I think City will eventually finish above Leicester. So we'll
Um,
see.
that will be interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
I yeah, I can't wait. This season's just honestly, it's like I don't know what to expect because what's Arsenal 10th and I
Yeah.
it's
Arsenal's
real.
10th.
Oh man.
United's like, I don't even know. Tottenham's like ninth. I don't know. It's a crazy, crazy season.
Oh man. I just have to. I just real curious because now I want to get more into the interview because we've been
Yeah,
talking and
yeah.
stuff, but I also want to know just a couple more things. In terms of what you do now and stuff, the videos and because I know you have your own courses as well. Well, like what started you on that? What made you really want to do that? Because you were playing, and then
Mhm.
you were still playing, but you were just doing videos on the side. Like what pushed you to it?
Like what made me start doing it in the first place?
Yeah, like what was it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think when I started, I was like 21 or 22, and it was really mainly. I mean, I don't know if I have like this big reason why I started. I think I thought it would be fun to do it, and I didn't really see many people doing it either. Like, I didn't have any huge vision on it because I didn't know it would become what it is today, like at all. I just kind of started it for fun, even though that's kind of a boring answer. And then it just kind of picked up momentum over time, and I kind of saw that there was there wasn't much resource for a lot of players. Like you were saying, like you're in Virginia, and there's not that many coaches around and all this other stuff.
Hmm.
There wasn't much back then. Now it's great because you have like so many channels that are doing amazing stuff with giving resources to players and like different drills, different skills, different um, tips that are helping them. But back then there was like nothing. So once I started for fun and gained a little bit of head of steam, and then I was like, oh, maybe I can actually start doing this a little more seriously, and actually put some stuff out there that I thought would have helped me when I was younger. So that was the main thing. But it started out just from a place of fun, just like kind of trying it out. I would love to say there was like this grand big why when I started it, but there just wasn't. It was just fun.
You just went with it.
Exactly. I just went. I just tried it out and ended up liking it.
Oh, that's great. That's what I kind of expect because I think when you did it, because I don't think you were before progressive soccer. I don't think you were before
No, he
him.
was the only one that I saw doing it.
Yeah,
Like he was 100% the early adopter. He was on there. Like he had another channel before that called Soccer Essentials, I think.
yeah,
So he's been on there. He's the OG of YouTube coaching, soccer coaching for
yeah.
sure. Dylan is. So he was like the only guy at that time that had anything. Now you have Become Elite, and you have like Unisport, and you have like Will John. You got like a ton of people now. But
Yeah.
back then it was just Dylan by himself.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, because he was the first guy I ever watched. Like I'll be watching YouTube videos, and it was him I found first. Then I found you, and then just everything just kept going off. And I was just watching these videos, and I'd be like, "This is great," because considering as a soccer player, the main surprise is that when people talk to me about Germany, it's like, "Oh, what's the soccer education like there?" I was like, if I'm being honest, I've had coaches who've been apparently they've told me they've been to like coaching academies and schools, but they didn't really coach me that well. I think part of it had to be a reason. Not only was I a foreigner, but there wasn't many black kids there. Like not only was I American, did not speak the languages, I was the only black kid there, so it would make it difficult to integrate into that. And
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah.
what
I mean, I think especially if you don't know the language as well, like I wouldn't know how to circumnavigate that at all. Like I'm in Thailand, I'm so lost when like the locals speak to me. I'm just like, oh hey, and they're speaking, and my girlfriend's she's not Thai, but she looks Thai. So whenever we go out, they try and
yeah.
speak to her in Thai, and she just kind of looks at them like, and I have to try and tell them she's not Thai, man. I'm sorry, she doesn't understand you. I know it's confusing, but she doesn't know.
They'll be thinking,
Yes.
what kind of prank you doing? What
What
kind of
kind of
prank?
what?
They'll be like, man, what kind of joke is this? This is a prank? This must be a
Yeah,
prank.
exactly. Like, come on, Ty. No, she doesn't know Ty. Every
I
single time, yes. She's getting used to it though. It's always funny for me. It's not funny for her.
mean, I mean, I think in terms of, I have to ask this because I've seen so many YouTube channelers, and I can't just say what the difference is. But what would you say is different from your channel than all the other channels that you've done before, even courses, but just the work that you've done and put out? What would you say makes that different than any of the others?
Work in what way? Like anything I've ever done?
In terms of like Simply Soccer, yeah, anything on like YouTube, even courses you gave out, even camps you may have had, but like what's something that I can say like listen, progressive soccer and you, this is how you guys are different.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is like one of the big focuses of my channel, because there's a lot of channels that go over skills and stuff, is I try and really cover a lot of the pitfalls to avoid because I made a lot of mistakes when I was younger. I didn't have much of like it's a great day and age to be a young kid trying to be a footballer because you have all these resources and it's great to learn the drills and everything. But I think one thing also Dylan used to focus on a lot too is also mentality and a lot of the pitfalls in there that players don't learn because I think that's so important. And I think that is the number one. I mean, you have to be skilled, you have to be, technically good and all that. But if you don't have the confidence, you don't have the mentality to play consistently, you're going to fall and you're not going to be able to not have the mentality to get back up. So I think a lot of what um, I try and focus on building that up as well, bringing those things. And it's sometimes at a detriment because they're not popular topics to talk
Yeah.
about. Like whenever I make a video on confidence or like a course or whatever, like it never really does well. But it's a totally, and that shows like sometimes the priorities are all over the place for certain players. But it's, I think, incredibly important. So I think for my channel, a lot of it is covering a lot of those mistakes that are easily avoidable if you have someone telling you, look, you don't want to make this same mistake. It's easily avoidable, but if you don't have someone who's been there, done that, telling you, not to do that, you might fall into the same thing. And I think the mentality as well is hugely important. And I know progressive soccer talks about that stuff as well a lot. Is the mental side of the game.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a good answer. Yeah, I've definitely seen that you both like are so focused on that. And as a player, I struggle with confidence, and I can definitely say you guys did target the right area. I could say personally, and I wish it didn't happen. Like I wish it did, but I know I watched both of yours like confidence videos and others. It just didn't work for me. But I'm like, I'm one of so many, so I'm sure it works for others. For
Yeah.
me, I had to, and I know you know what I'm talking about, but I had to use like affirmations. I had to use like
Yeah.
law of attraction. My dad taught me
Yeah.
this kind of stuff for his business and that kind of stuff. And I went to goal setting, even persona. I even did a meditation, and this was like, but the day before, not the day before, like a couple hours before one of my best games ever. I
Mm.
meditated. Like I just laid down in my bed because my dad said, he said, I want you to actually meditate on the best player that you've ever seen. And at that time, I was thinking, you know what, it's Messi or Pele. And I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go with my boy Pele. And
Yeah.
what I did was, he told me what to do is when you meditate on Pele teaching you how to play. And I was like, let me try it out. And I actually was able to like envision him teaching me how to shoot, how to dribble, how to pass, him working with me. Because I've seen so many of his videos, which is only like 20% of actually all the stuff he's done, considering because his
Oh yeah, most of it wasn't filmed.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I already know that when I've seen the videos already, it's like, listen, guys, like when people say like, oh, he played in Brazil, I'm like, no, guys, you need to watch him. He's top. He's either it's him or Messi, in my opinion. It's him or Messi,
Yeah.
and
No, yeah.
and between those two, when I was watching when Pele was teaching me after that, the game I went into, I actually went into the zone, and to this day I can't even remember what I did except
Mhm.
grab the ball, and then in like 10 seconds, not even that, I just ended up with the goal in the back of the net. And my teammates tell me after that, they were like, yeah, you dribbled past like 4 players. And I was like, I did? Like, how did I do it? Like, did you have it on film or anything? And it was just one of those moments I realized I'm like, okay, that works for me. So that's what I'm
Yeah.
going to have to do. And what I try to do for my courses, because I try to put the mentality that, like on LinkedIn, when you put your YouTube for like law of attraction, that kind of stuff, I've
Mhm.
seen it and viewed it. I'm just like, you're right, 100% right. And I try to incorporate that into my courses mentally. But I tell
Yeah.
it in my courses, I'm like, listen, guys, this is not like this isn't like, oh, you're going to have confidence in 6 weeks. No, no, this is like, it can happen tomorrow or it can happen in 3
Yeah.
months. I don't want to lie to you guys and tell you guys, listen, this is a 30-day guarantee. No, no, no. It's
No.
different for everybody. But the one thing that I've seen and I've gotten so many calls about, and I'm sure you've had this before, people have like literally, I've given them the mental like affirmations, even like a list of affirmations that I would put out for them. And they'll
Mhm.
tell me, you know what? It hasn't worked. I'm like, Mohammed, it's been like 2 weeks. Like, how can you expect it to work in 2 weeks?
Yeah. I
And he
get
was
stuff
like,
like that a
well,
lot.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys have to learn to be patient. And for one, the moment that you tell me it doesn't work in 2 weeks, that doubt just might as well have set it back. You might as well just start the timer over again.
It's funny, yeah, because like affirmations will work for you and me, but the reason they will is because we're bought into it. If you come into those kind of things, because you're rewiring your brain in a way, And if you come in with doubt, you have this doubt kind of pushing against this new belief system you're trying to create. I mean, what you're talking about is some really, potent, really good stuff. That is, thankfully it's becoming more and more mainstream. Hopefully, some more people are doing it. Just the power of, that you have ownership of your beliefs and you can change them. It's really cool your dad also told you about all that stuff, because that's something that I don't see many parents or kind of mentors or things teaching people, that, and that's something, again, like in my confidence course and other confidence videos, I'll talk about stuff like that, like affirmations and, law of attraction. I'll try and not use the word law of attraction, because I know some people have a little bit of a
Yeah.
negative association, because as soon as you say it, it's go, it's a woo woo. I'm like, look, there's enough evidence to back this up, 1,000 times these days. It's just that you're clinging on to old evidence that's outdated. But that's really awesome. And the thing with the Pele thing, that is very powerful stuff, because essentially it's a visualization technique, which is another thing I'm a huge believer in, because I have a similar story where I was playing in a final in college, and this was like such an important game. And I didn't know anything about visualization or any of this stuff. This was one of my first discoveries of it, and it was kind of accidental. We had a 2-hour bus ride to the stadium, and I was just like, I got to make the most of this game. Like, this is a final. We're playing like the number one team in the nation. This is like, I don't know what I got to do. And for some reason, I was just brought to this idea of just thinking about the game and seeing myself play just as well as I could possibly even imagine. And I ended up having like just an amazing game. I scored like an amazing goal. I even had one moment where I finally, where it clicked, where I'm like, there's something to this, because I had a moment in the match where it played out exactly as I visualized it on the bus on the way there. Like, the move was exactly the same. I took the ball, did the same thing, crossed it in. The only thing that didn't happen was my teammate didn't tap it in, which I had no control over. But everything that I did, it was almost as if I was priming my body earlier to do the things that I did later in the game. And so from that point on, I dove headfirst into this kind of stuff. And it is a tool that so many players are leaving on the table, and people in general, because this can apply to everything. But it's a tool that so many players are leaving on the table. And it's just like, you don't have to, you don't have to do it. It's an invitation, but it's, I've seen too many examples from people who have told me about it, who have applied it, from yourself, from others, who have just gotten incredible results or had those incredible moments, like you said, where you just hooked in and just did something that you wouldn't normally do, or you're just in the zone. And it's available to every single player if they just open up their mind to it. And it's,
Yeah.
what's the risk? That's what I always wonder when players kind of go, what is the risk? You do this 30 minutes before your match. What would you normally be doing in that time? Watching TV or just doing nothing? Like,
Instagram,
if you
going on
really
Instagram, going on Snap. That's what they be doing.
exactly, like, like, what is the risk to you to try this and actually fully dive into it and see what happens? And either you're going to get this incredible, like, not only thing out of it maybe in the short term, but now this new long-term belief that could help you in many areas, or it doesn't work and you go, okay, this is not for me, even though it will work, if you actually
Yeah.
stick to it. So it's kind of like, that's what I try and get players to just be like, hey, just believe me on this. Just try it for a little bit, like, with total certainty, without any doubts. And if in a month from now you've been doing it and it's not working or helping you in any way and you see no benefit, sure, don't do it. But it's always, and I know why, but it's always insane to me, like, how these things are left on the table by players who say they want to get better. And it's like, look, man, yeah, I get it. You got to work on other stuff. I'm not telling you not to. You have to get out there and work on your technique. You have to get out there and do the drills, work on your fitness, work on your body, all of this stuff. But you have these additional resources that I guarantee you almost no one else is using, that you can take advantage of. And it always, and some players do take me up on it, thankfully, but I'm hoping more and more in the future will, because it is like you've experienced. It's so powerful when you do it.
And it baffles me because I'm just like, when they'll ask me, it's like, well, do other players use it? I'm like, you'll be surprised how many successful athletes, and I don't mean just soccer, I just mean variety people use it.
Yeah.
You can Google that, and I know Serena Williams, LeBron James, Kobe. Like, there's the list is so big. When he asked me that, I was like, you just Google anyone, man. There's that.
Yeah.
I can literally lend name 15 off the top of my head, but it's like for some of them have had the rough situation that I've never been in. Some of them's parents don't support them at all, and they don't have anyone believing in them. It's just them.
It
So what
makes
I
it
told
hard.
them is that, listen, instead of because they find it hard to trust in something like that. Because for me and you, it's like, listen, we have the proof. We can just go ahead and put 100% in it, and it's good. But for them, I'll tell them, listen, do you trust me? And then they'll like pause and they'll be like, yeah, I trust you. Or if it's not even me, it'll be like, maybe there is someone in their life. Like, yeah, who's someone that you trust 100% with your life? Your mom, your dad. Okay, well, treat that as if that's the law of attraction or the universe, whatever you want it to be. Whether you want it to be God, it doesn't matter. As no matter what you want it to be, but you can't have any doubt. So I'd rather you be certain. If you're certain in a bunny or certain in me, it does not matter which, as long as you are 100% certain in something. Because every other day you doubt yourself, it's just hurting you in the long run. Because it's not hurting me, it's hurting you. And I'm like, that's the last thing.
Exactly. Exactly. It's when I get pushback on it, that's the thing. I'm like, this is not for me. This is for you. And it's true. Like when you come up in an environment, and a lot of people do, where it's a negative kind of you can't do certain thing type of, it's a limitation type environment. And I get that that's harder, but there's always a point where someone needs to, they just need to wake up and realize that if they take responsibility for their life, their game, their improvement, and they stop putting it out on other people, that there's so much they can do. And that's another huge thing. I can understand it as well because I was in that situation before as well. When I was younger, I used to blame, and those are some of the mistakes I made, right? I didn't take enough responsibility. And so I know the pitfalls of that. And then my life completely changed when I did. And I can understand if you're in a situation where you're there's so much doubt, or you're being told you can't do this and you can't do that. But ultimately, anyone who is successful in any area of life has had to go through that in everybody. And you can look at some of those people you were mentioning, some of the stories. Yeah, there are some people who had someone that put their arm around their shoulder, and it was a great situation, and that's awesome if that person was in that situation. But there was always doubters for everyone, and there are some people who, I mean, they had nobody at all. They had nobody, and they still managed to take responsibility, take it upon themselves, and create it for themselves, and then do incredible things. So it's always possible. I don't care what situation you're in, even if, again, it could seem like a bleak situation now. That years down the line can change if you decide that, you know what, I'm going to form my own beliefs. I'm going to take ownership here, and so much can change if you do that. And I think that's one of the biggest things because I get a lot of players as well who come to me with excuses, and again, they're for some of them they're justifiable, but the problem is for those, they don't serve you. They don't serve you to be talking about this thing. Like, you'll get some sympathy, but that's about all you'll get when you're coming to people with that kind of stuff. Like, you'll get some sympathy, and it might feel a little good to, be able to connect with someone on that level. But it's not going to improve your life. It's not going to improve your game. It's not going to help you out of whatever it is you're in.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, for me, belief, mindset, that stuff's so important. Because if you have that stuff, even if football is the thing that doesn't pan out for you in the future, something else will. When you have developed that responsibility and mindset, it doesn't matter. That is the skill that will allow you to do most things in life and to live the kind of life you want to live. And this goes beyond even the scope of football, but it will also help you in football if that's the thing you want to pursue.
Exactly.
It's huge. Yeah.
It's so powerful. And I think sometimes when they explain to them, they'll think, well, where's the limit? There's no limit. Like, and I think I always tell them, like, listen, just start with something small. Don't say like, I want to be the best player in the world. Okay, hold on. That's not going to be a 2-week process. How about you say, I want to start for my team by the end of, in the next 2 months. And let's say you get it done in a month. Let's say you want to start for your college team or something like that. they put their it's okay for standards to be set high, but
Yeah.
if you don't have any realistic plan to get there, that's when it's like, oh well, your method isn't working. No, you just
Yeah.
have. It's like, oh, I want to be the president of the United States. Well, you know what? If I said that today, I guarantee you in 2 weeks I won't be a senator. Like it's not going to happen that easily. And like
Yeah.
this is why I'm glad I called you, because I knew you were one of the. I'm sure there are other YouTubers out here with the same, same mindset as yours. But it's like,
Mhm.
in terms of what you've done in terms of like college and stuff, what has been the most difficult challenge for you, I have to say, getting into college?
Getting it like actually getting admitted into college or like getting on a team.
I'd say, let's say getting admitted to college and then on the team, because that's actually
Yeah.
two things we got to work on.
Yeah. Yeah. This is something. This is one of those things that I don't tell players to look at my example as far as getting into college because I was not proactive at all. I was lucky because I played for a good club team, so I got college interest, but I was not proactive at all. Like you should, if you want to play in college, you need to start being proactive. Like even your freshman year, sophomore year, you need to get that ball rolling. Again, it's like you're saying. You can't be a senior 2 weeks away from graduation and then start talking to have this big goal of going to colleges, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my example of getting admitted into college is not an example to follow. That's I should have been doing a lot more. I was just fortunate that I made decent connections and also went to places where these coaches were. But it was just basically my love for football and always wanting to play and trying to play as much as I could benefited me in that regard. But I should have, if I wanted to, let's say, go to the best college possible, I was not doing the things that I should have been doing. So in that regard, and the biggest challenge on the team, I would say, we've already been talking about it, was confidence. I knew I was a good player, but I always didn't know if I could play at that level, so to speak, even though there was a part of me that knew I could, and then there was a part of me that, you have that doubt come in because it's a step up.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably the biggest challenge as well, which is why, like, there's so many players that have the ability, but then they lack. Because, and I saw it in college too, even like we had players who were incredibly technical, like we're better than some of the players starting. And I saw this in club teams as well, with players that could have gone, but the confidence again. So for me, the biggest challenge was building up that confidence. But when I did, I played incredibly well. So those were the two biggest things. And we can talk about the college recruitment process and all that because my example is not the one to follow in that regard because I was so super lazy with it. I let teams come to me instead of going out and choosing the exact one I wanted, and then eventually ended up at a college. And I enjoyed playing for my college. I knew the coach. I knew I was going to get. He really liked me as a player, so I knew I was gonna get time. But yeah, the most difficult thing for me, I wasn't proactive. And for players who want to play in college, you got to be proactive. You got to ninth, 10th grade, you got to already be putting feelers out there, contacting coaches.
Yeah.
If you can get tape together, that's awesome. If you can go to camps, that's amazing as well. So yeah, there's not much I can say about my own experience in that, just because I didn't do things. If I went back, I would do things a lot differently, I think, in that regard.
Yeah, yeah, same. Like, people ask me and stuff, especially like for the coach. Whenever I've been coaching and stuff, they've always asked me like, "Coach, did you play in college?" It's like, no. And they're like, really? Because they'll always ask me that. Because whenever I'll
Mm,
tell them like different things, like, there was this one guy on our team. Uh, he was amazing at crossing the ball, like
mm,
amazing at it. And so for one of the games, I told him, I was like, listen, uh, our free kick taker, he's injured right now. When we win a free kick close to the box, I want you to take it. He was like, Coach, I've never taken a free kick. This kid, I'm talking about, he's only been playing for probably about 2 years, and
mm,
for the crossing and stuff, I taught him how to cross the ball, and during the season, and I told him like when I was teaching, I was like, listen, I'm gonna ask you to do something later, and you're gonna be uncomfortable with it, but I need you to do it. Are you okay with that? He's like, okay, cool. That later comes, and I'm like, listen, I need you to take that free kick. He's like, well, how do I do it? I'm like, act like it's a corner. I mean, act like you're crossing the ball. Just position your body as if you're running down the line, and then act like you're aiming at a certain direction. And he actually scored from there. And it was like hit the post and went in, and he ran straight to me, but he couldn't get off the sideline. So he just stopped for a minute. And I was like, cool. After the game, he was like, Coach, like, how did you know? And that's what he was asking me. Did you play college? I'm like, no. He's like, what is it like? What stopped you from playing college? I'm like, for one, I believed I was mentally weak back then. So I was lucky enough to make the mistake of, I'm lucky enough to tell you what I didn't know back then, which is, I think, great for all coaches. I don't think you can be a great coach if you don't make a mistake at some point. You got to have some big failures for me to be a coach.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do anything of any no like any success without. I mean, that's the common I mean, I hope it's not a misconception, but it seems like a lot of players don't get that. It's like the people who succeed and the people who get somewhere and can come back and teach and do things like that, right? They've all gone through huge failures and huge mistakes. And if they haven't, it probably means they didn't do that much. You know, they played it safe. And it's you have to you can't like you have to be someone who's made mistakes because it means you actually went out
Learn
and did
from it.
things. Yeah, exactly. You've experienced things, and that's where you can or like that player be able to tell him or your experience in order to aid him and make him not allow him to at least have the opportunity not to make the same ones. Um, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to learn from someone who's never made a mistake because I would call BS on that immediately.
Yeah,
I'm just,
immediately.
that's kind of strange. I mean, you've tried everything and it's always worked out. That you must be the only person on the planet that's happened. So
It's like, yeah,
yeah,
your luck must be that good because it hasn't rubbed off on me. And
yeah,
those little scenarios, and it's just like when people, I've had like questions and stuff. I've told people, it's like, listen, I would rather be on Klopp's team than Guardiola because Guardiola has been used to winning, and a lot of things. Like I don't believe he hasn't lost that many finals. If I'm actually recalling in my head, he's lost semifinals, quarterfinals, but he hasn't lost a final. And Klopp has lost like at least a good
yeah.
3 with Liverpool, I'm sure.
Yeah, we've lost a few. I mean, that's like upper echelon kind of stuff too, because I'm sure Pep has gone through, because he was a player too. He's gone through some incredible failures, but it's true as well, like the more I mean, it's kind of cool with Liverpool too, because you look, they lost the Champions League final one year. They take that experience and then win it. I mean, that doesn't usually happen in that quick of a fashion, but that's a good example of that. Like, okay, we lost the final this year. What can we do to make it more likely to win it next year? And then they go on and win it. We lost the Premier League last year. Perhaps this year we can, go off of that experience, make our pain our advantage, make our failures, a springboard for our success, and
Yeah.
then that happens. So I think with most players, again, this is why the mindset's so important, is they make a mistake or a failure and they just allow themselves to stay at that level and never get back up and try again, or they don't get back up and try at the same level. So it's really important to understand that even at the highest level, there's mistakes, there's failures, there's Lionel Messi's made many mistakes. Cristiano he's failed many times in his career. The difference between those players at the top level and then the players who maybe even like could have made it is the players at the top level understood the mistakes and failures are going to come. They learn from it. They take the experience they need from it, and they are better prepared the next time they're in that situation. And we live in a culture which no one wants to make a mistake because it's like, oh, look at this guy making mistakes. Oh, you're a failure, whatever it is. We're so afraid of this outside opinion from other people, and it's like, dude,
It's the chip on the shoulder. Every kid,
exactly,
every kid has it now when they come out of high school or college. They think, you know what, I should be making so and so when in like 3 years, or it's like, you know what, I
yeah,
should be doing perfectly by myself in a certain amount of years. It's like, listen, like I had that chip on my shoulder when I got out, and it
mm-hmm.
was like a reality check, and it was like when you're 30 years old, I used to think that was old. You're not old when you're
Yeah,
30. That's actually young.
Dude, I used to
You're
think that
young.
too. Yeah, because I'm 27 now, and I'm making my way up there, and so I'm like now when you're getting closer and you're in that perspective, you're like, why did I ever think that? When you're 18, you think like, oh, 30, my life's over. I'll be, I don't know, I'll have all my dreams are. No, I'm a big fan of Gary Vee. I'm sure you know who he is.
Oh yeah.
And he talks about that stuff all the time when someone uses that excuse. Like, it's like, no, your life's just getting started. You're gonna learn. Like, sure, if I went back to 18 and my life panned out in the way it has so far, maybe my 18-year-old self wouldn't be satisfied with that. But I'm sitting here now, like, I'm glad I went through all the things I went through and all the mistakes and failures, because now I have such clarity on what it is I want and what I'm doing, and so many, like, those experiences that I'm able to take moving forward, to the point when I am 30, I'm already living a life that I love right now, so imagine when I'm 30. So, I mean, that's, I think, don't be, the point is, don't be afraid to fail and don't be afraid to make mistakes, because the last thing you want is to be 20 or 18 or whatever age, and then at 28 be exactly the same, and have not grown or learned or evolved in any way. And that
Yeah.
comes from being safe and secure and never taking the chance or whatever it is. Sure, it might be tough in the moment, but you're not going to remember that failure even a month from now, honestly, or a year from now. You're going to take that moving forward and hopefully grow from it. And I think that it's a shame, because I see a lot of players, especially younger players. I don't know if it's being taught or it's just unconscious, that are afraid to do something because they're afraid of looking dumb or making a mistake, or that a failure is like the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
That mentality has to shift if you want to make it, whether you want to play in college, whether you want to be a pro, whether you want to do anything. You got to put yourself out there. You got to put the light on yourself for a second. And yeah,
Hmm.
you're gonna trip and fall sometimes, but that's fine. Who of any note is gonna tell you that tripping and falling is a bad thing? They're just gonna tell you to get back up.
Yeah, they're
No,
not really gonna care.
no, they're not gonna care, because they know, they have the experience, and they know what that means. That means, okay, you're falling forward here. That's it. You get back up, and it's gonna happen again. It's fine. One of my favorite, you ever hear the man in the arena quote about the critics?
Maybe I have, maybe I haven't.
Roosevelt. Yeah, it's an incredible one, because it's a quote about how the man in the arena, and he talks about that, I will no longer take on board the opinion of the person who's not in the arena. And what it means is, there are so many people telling you what you should do and how you're making mistakes and what you're doing wrong. And these are like the armchair warrior people, right? Like, they're not actually doing anything, right? They're not in the trenches with you. They're not, if, for example, if you're trying to become a pro and you're out there, because there are people on YouTube now that are awesome doing these like pro contracts. Sheldon Tweedy, Brandell got a
Hmm.
contract recently, but if he listened to those people who are kind of watching, he would have given up long ago. You got to tune that out. Don't take on board the criticisms of people who are not even trying to do what you're doing, because how would they know? The people who are trying to do what you're doing, they're never going to talk to you in that manner. They'll give you constructive criticism, but they're never going to be like, you should just quit. You should give up. What the hell are you doing? What's that mistake? They're going to be the ones who are telling you, no, dude, I've been exactly where you are. You just got to get up and go again. And that's it. If you keep doing that, if you persist in that way, you will be successful in something. You will. You just will. You have to, by, I think, law, be successful in something if you just keep picking yourself up and keep going after whatever it is you want. Something good will happen, but most people, 90 whatever, that's not a real statistic, but 90+% of people don't. And if you can just be one of those that does, you're gonna look back and be like, wow, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah,
For whatever it is.
facts,
I'm
facts.
really loving the mindset talk today, man. I'm loving this.
Oh yeah, that's like half the
Fired up on
reason.
this kind of stuff, man.
Yeah, I knew you were like, I remember when I first knew that I could actually really have a conversation with you. When I saw your LinkedIn, I saw a law of attraction thing. I was like, no way. Does he
Yeah,
know?
man.
Does he know? And I just watched it. I was like, I gotta get this guy. I gotta see if I can get him. I hope I can. But
Yeah, you got it, man. Here we go.
yeah, it's just been it's it's interesting because I'm while being out here in Virginia, being young, and it's difficult because I'm trying to find my feet, and I realize it's going to take time. But what I see that I try to see what I offer that's different than coaches, because it's like Listen, I can tell you something that's maybe another coach has, but what makes me different from him, and I think the things that I found that may separate me are like the little tricks and tips that I give. So like the kid I was telling you about with the crossing thing, he knew how to do corners, free kicks, and cross the ball, and even penalties. And I told him, and I tell everyone who, if you know how to cross the ball, you know how to do free kicks, and you know how to do corners. Trent Alexander-Arnold is a great example. Kevin De
Yeah,
Bruyne is a great example.
it's all
Like
technique based.
David Beckham. There's a correlation between free kicks, crossing, penalties, and corners. Any dead ball situation, it's not the exact same technique because you know what, if you're farther away or the angle, you have to adjust your feet and where you strike the ball, obviously. But in reality, it's kind of the same technique. And
Mm-hmm.
like on my Instagram, I put out daily tips every day, and I put that out, and some of them were just like, "Wow, I never thought of it." And I think that was my area that I do is that I put out tips that no one would think of. Like for passing, I can tell you this, that I trained for about 2 summers and my passing went up like exponentially, and I never did a single passing drill for those 2 summers. And I wondered why my passing got up because I was suddenly able to make good through balls. I was suddenly able to just put an amazing amount of weight on the pass, and I found it just easy and natural. And I realized, well, if right now off the top of your head, who are the best 5 dribblers you've ever seen?
Well, obviously Messi.
Messi,
You mean like ever? Like if it's ever like in history, I would say Messi's up there. I really like Zidane.
Zidane.
I mean, you got to put Maradona and Pele in there.
Okay,
Who would be the last one?
put Ronaldinho in there.
Yeah, five's not enough because then I'm thinking like Kaká, yeah, Ronaldinho has to go in there. There's too many. But like if
There's
I
a
had to
lot.
say best, I would say it's probably Messi. Like I've never seen anyone dribble like him. Um, but yeah, but Ronaldinho was just magical, so I'd put him up there too.
And if of those 5, I thought about it because in order to be a great dribbler, you need to have 2 things. You need to have good ball control and good first touch, obviously, because you're moving forward. So I'm like, so why did I improve naturally on my passing? All 5 of those people that you named could pass the ball really well.
Mhm.
That's the correlation. Just like with crossing, free kicks and stuff, it's the same with passing. You don't have to do 50 passing drills to get better at passing. If you get better with your ball control and your first touch, and whether you use a wall or whether you have like some kind of juggling drill or something like that, as long as you improve your ball control and your first touch, your passing will improve. And that's the
Mhm.
correlation. That's what's happened. That's why in those 2 summers I was able to make that jump, and I realized that, and it's throughout history. Iniesta, Xavi, Xabi Alonso. I mean, it's all of them. And when I would tell people this, they'll be like, "Wait, so do I even have to do these super really difficult passing drills?" It's like, no, you don't really have to do it. I mean, you
Yeah.
can,
It,
but it's just like,
it's understanding that, when it comes to this kind of training too, there's layers to it. There's fundamental things you need to work on that's building up your foundation because obviously to get really good at passing, you will need to work on passing at some point. But like you said, there's like when it comes to a skill, for example, that I tell players that they should work on first. It's usually ball control and first touch because I call it like the most fundamental skill with the ball you can develop. Because like you're saying, without ball control, your dribbling goes out the window, your passing goes out the window, everything goes out the window. A lot comes from that. Now, once you get better, it definitely becomes more nuanced. Like the passing drills, the more advanced stuff. A lot of that is definitely important. But if you don't work on that stuff in the beginning, if you don't like it, I don't care how much you work on passing drills if your touch sucks because you're just not going to get it.
yeah,
Now, through the passing drills, touch is involved. A lot of drills are multifaceted. So, but like for me, a lot of things I tell players, like especially when they're beginners, is get to a wall and just practice against that wall, your touch, your ball control, your striking of the ball, because that is going to just elevate all those fundamentals very, very quickly if you stick with it. And once you move up, all the fundamentals are important. You should be working on them a lot. But I think um, they all filter into each other, the fundamentals, and nothing more than ball control. Because if you can do that, because the ball control is essentially your ability just to manipulate the ball. And whether that's when you're dribbling with the ball, your feet, whether that's controlling it when it's in the air, when you're passing, the weight you put on the ball has to do with your control over the ball as well. All of that plays in. So,
Well, it
um,
depends what you mean by ball control. Because like
yeah,
I have different definitions. So like ball control for me is dribbling one on one. Ball control for me is the ability to move the ball wherever you want on the pitch. First touch is just the ability to stop the ball when it's coming to you, whether on the ground or through the air, but just literally first touch, stopping the ball. Ball
yeah,
control is just going forward, whether you're going past one player, which is 1v1, which you can just say to do a subcategory, or you can just say, if you have great ball control, there's no person who has great ball control in history that can't do 1v1s. So, but every player who has a good first touch
hmm
usually falls into that same category, but there's two separate things on the same and working
I
through
would say,
technical.
yeah. I mean, again, for me, like the way I define ball control is just your ability to manipulate the ball. I would say first touch falls under ball control because your first touch is always going to be you receiving the ball and being able to, like a good first touch is being able to either touch it close to your body and control, push it out in the direction you want to go so you can move in that direction quickly, where ball control is more all encompassing. That's just your ability to manipulate the ball. Like Ronaldinho, for example, when he's flipping it over someone's head, he's bringing it on his chest and doing it again. That's a great demonstration of him being able to manipulate the ball in the ways that he wants to do it. And yeah, if you have a good first touch, good ball control, your one-on-one ability should be good as well. But it is important to deliberately focus and practice on these areas as well, because there's certain nuances when you're doing it that you need to learn. Things like timing, things like when your opponent does something, what you need to do, for example. So it's all important, but like you say, like when you work on one thing like ball control, it does filter into a lot of different areas.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, so if we're talking and first touch, so if we're talking about like it's again a skill that I think a lot of kids, beginners should work on, ball control is probably number one for me. It's the one I talk about the most, at least in the past. I haven't done one on ball control in a while, but it's probably the most fundamental skill with the ball in my eyes.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's one of the biggest ones that I find very interesting because I had a kid the other day who actually he needed to improve on his first touch. He could control the ball, move the ball, but he was someone who would rely on his speed. So he could move it forward and stuff, but it was like if the ball came through to him during the air, he would just panic and stuff like that. His first touch was I'm not even gonna be nice about it. It was awful. It was just horrible to see. You wouldn't even have it on video because it was that bad. And for him, a coach would tell him one of the coaches would tell him was like, listen, you need to relax. And for him, it didn't work that way. There's some players that you can teach it's like when you're raising 5 kids. You can't raise them all the same way. Some of them are going to be different than others. Some of them are going to be more aggressive. One of them's going to be quieter. So if you get soccer players, you can't teach them all the same way. Sometimes you need to break it down to like kindergarten level sometimes because listen, you don't know if he just started, you don't know if he's not that kind of learner. So like for him, when he would kick against the wall like you do. And what I told him, I was like, listen, do you know what the difference between a wall and a fence is? And he was like, well, one's obviously like a chain and then one's like a solid wall. It's like, okay, if you kick a ball against the wall, it's going to come right back at you with the same amount of speed, right? And if you kick a ball at a fence, the fence is going to absorb the impact. So imagine your foot is the same as a wall and a fence. They're both heart-like surfaces because if you're thrown into a fence, that's going to hurt. If you're thrown into a wall, it's going to hurt. So what's the difference? So I had to tell him, I was like, listen, the difference isn't how solid it is, it's the way that it impacts. So if you hit a wall, it goes back. With the fence, locked ankle, if you move it back, you can stop it dead weight. And I told him, I was like, listen, that's just called fence control. That's what I call it, fence control. And I told him, like, listen, whenever the ball's in the air and you tense up, it's not a bad thing. You think it's a scary thing, but it's not, because if the ball's coming in the air and you tense up, your heart like a wall. And all you have to do is just absorb the impact. So your body isn't saying, oh, retreat. Well, it is, but at the same time, you're using your body's natural inclination to its advantage to absorb the impact of the ball, to control it. Because to this day, that's how I am with the ball. If the ball's in the air, I tense up, but it helps me keep it under control because I think just like a fence. And when the kid saw it, he was like, oh, I understand now. So you have a visual representation. And not only that, the kid actually understands what I'm talking about. So later, he doesn't have to work on his ball control, even with his weak foot. When I passes it to his weak foot, all he would think of is a fence. And that was all in like 2 days. That was all in just 2 days, and I have to work hard with him. And that was the difference between the way that the coaches do it here. They teach what I call the default training. The default training is saying what all the other coaches have said. And what I try to do is teach the kids is like, listen, I'm going to break it down to simplest terms to teach you something that's so simple as first touch. You just have to think about it in a different way and visualize it. Like you said, visualization is powerful.
You're breaking down the mechanics in a much better way, because if you get a kid who's a beginner, he doesn't know how to relax or how to cushion the ball or to stop it in that manner. And you're just passing him the ball and like, oh no, you got to stop it. Yeah, exactly. Like being able to make that association is very, very important. And once you feel what that feels like, then you can move forward with it. Because it's like, for a beginner, if you don't know how to shoot the ball, you don't know how to lock your ankle, you know how to do all these things, you don't know what it feels like to make clean contact, you have no association to what that's like, you don't even know what you're going for. So yeah, that's a really good way of giving him some kind of representation that's like, oh, that's what it's like. So then he can finally take that touch and it feels right, and then keep going after that feeling each and every time. I mean, that's how I learned how to shoot actually against the wall, is I had to experiment with different ways of shooting until I finally felt something and I was like, ooh, that felt right, that felt clean. And then I was able to do that technique over and over against the wall.
And how long did that take though?
It didn't take, I don't know how long it took. I think I don't know. I can't give you an answer to that, but it didn't take too long because I was playing against the wall quite often, and I was okay with making mistakes, so I kept trying new things. But I did, like a lot of what my coach would say, where I needed to hit the ball, where locking my ankle, all this different stuff. And once I felt what that was like once you actually have um, what am I trying to say? That muscle memory of what it actually feels like to do it, then you can replicate it. But until you have that, you're kind of fumbling around in the dark. But I think that's really good to give them a certain representation of like, oh, it feels like, if a fence absorbs the impact of the ball, if you can do the same thing, then it could be like, oh, okay, I kind of get that. Then they take the touch, and then from that experience of actually taking that touch, they can move forward and just continue to replicate that. But for a beginner, it's hard because you're in that really unconscious, incompetent phase where you have no idea what it's like until you get that first good rep in. And that works for every single skill. When you do a step over for the first time, the right time, or you curl the ball for the first time, the right time, you have to get that first rep in that you can keep associating back to and keep aiming for. But I like that. Giving them, instead of just being like, no, you need to soften your foot or you need to stop the impact. It's like, well, exactly, at a kid level, what that makes sense to me and you, but that's not going to make sense to maybe an 8-year-old who's never done that. But I like the wall fence analogy because to me that's like that's bringing it down to their level and going like, oh, okay, they can kind of wrap their heads around that.
Oh, this kid was 15.
Oh, he's 15. Well, he has not played for long, maybe, or is he just like?
That was just a part of his game he never developed, and that was something with the kids out here. They never developed every side. So I try to tell them, for me, it's like cheat codes. I tell you something that you can actually almost instantly get results with. So like with someone with the first touch like that, I can teach someone who's 8 years old that same thing, and then someone who's 25 who's like, you know what, I'm doing pickup soccer, my first touch isn't that good. What's some stuff I can think about because I get too nervous? It's like, well, here's a visual representation of it, and that's what I've seen with. I want kids to be able to think for themselves. I want to give them a base, at as young of an age as young as the age of sorry, at as young of an age as I can. So when
Yeah.
they're 8 years old and they already understand like defense control, then it's like, okay, I want to do a certain flick. Okay, well, how do I do that flick? Okay, well, if I remember right, Coach Jordan broke down the mechanics. All I have to do is scroll my body like this, and I experiment because it took me years to get this, and it took me years to find other techniques. And I'm like, why should it have to take all these kids these other years when it can be broken down simpler? It's not.
It
It's not.
is.
Huh?
Learning it is it can be like if you getting the technique, I think the first time doesn't need to take long. Mastery on the other hand will take a little bit of time because the only issue with when you're thinking of these things when you're doing it is it's not automatic. So I have to think now about about the fence and the wall example as I'm doing it. But then once you've done that enough times, you don't even need to think about it. It's muscle memory at that point. So it's you know you need that first example, that good teaching to learn the technique to begin with, to get that first association on, oh, this is what it looks like, this is what it feels. And that's the thing a lot of players don't consider is they see someone doing something and they're like, oh, I just need to do that. It's like you have to feel what it feels like to do it. You have to
Yeah.
feel what the impact of the ball feels like on your foot. You have to feel like all of the technique coming together to produce whatever it is you're trying to produce. Then once you have that, it's just about repeating that over and over again to the point where it is a part of you. Like, when you're probably the same way now with some skills, like you don't have to think about them. You're in a certain situation in a game, your body just reacts, because you've done it so many times. Like for me, if I'm going to, shoot a ball, I've done that so many times. I can turn and, hit a ball cleanly on net pretty automatically most times, but only because it's been so many repetitions of doing that over and over and over again. But like you're saying, to even get to that point, you have to grasp the technique first. And if a kid or any, like even at 15 hasn't been taught how to do that first touch, not only are they not going to be able to improve that area, they're also learning a technique that doesn't work, and they're getting better at doing the wrong thing, which is even worse.
Yeah.
So it's that's even like if you're learning for how to shoot it, but it's improper technique. You're going to get good at something. It's just going to be something that's not going to serve you. You're going to get good at not controlling the ball in the right way, but you're going to be reinforcing that, or you're going to get good at shooting a ball in a way that's not going to score you many goals, but you're
Yeah.
practicing that way over and over again. So guess what? That's just how the universe works consistently. Whatever you do consistently is what you're going to get. And that's why learning those techniques, the form, everything, those fundamentals properly is so essential, because you can either build a good foundation with those things, having those associations, knowing what it feels like, or you could learn it in a different way that's not going to be that efficient, but that's the way, and it's going to be even harder to reverse that later on as well, because that's going to be, either way, something's going to be developed into muscle memory. So it's essential to get those things, to really take the time if you need to get those things right, because it's not worth going years of improper technique and then trying to reverse that later. It's going to be really difficult to go back on that.
And they'll be coming to me, like different people will come to me. It's like, you know what? I'm not improving from my team training. I'm not surprised people don't improve from their team practice. Your coach has to worry about 10 other players at least. He's not worrying about if you can't shoot a ball. He's just going to tell you to learn how to shoot. He's not going to spend the time to actually. I think it's critical for players to understand how to train by themselves, to understand how to improve by themselves, to get as much as they can.
Things. Yeah, it 100% is one of the most essential things. Unless you're fortunate enough to be in a place where you're scouted and you're in an academy by 8 years old or something, where you're then it's fine, because they develop the individual player. You're there pretty much every single day, and that's great. But you can replicate that even if you're not in an academy. Like, it's not like these kids are have this incredible gift. No, they've just been put in a situation where they're getting a ton of touches on the ball. And it's the same as what you could do in individual training if you could replicate that training. So if you're getting out there against the wall and practicing the same stuff, grab a friend and you're doing the same partner drills they're doing. You're doing the ball mastery. You're getting tons of touches on the ball. It's not like at the academy there's this super energy where they develop faster if they're doing the same thing as you. No, it's like if you're doing the same thing, you can find out what that is and you're putting in the individual work, you will get similar results. That's the thing, because that's another excuse I hear. It's like, I'm not in the academy or I'm not in a club or whatever it is. I'm like, that's fine. Yeah, obviously, the best of the best situation would be if you are, but you can still individually train. And, in this day and age on YouTube, you can find out what these guys are doing. Like, what are they teaching kids at 8 years
Yep.
old? And the best, like the best, like I say to people all the time, what are the Spanish coaches in like Barcelona's academy and Real Madrid? What are they teaching 8-year-olds, right? What are they doing? You want a kid that's technically sound, you are a kid and you want to be more technically sound. Why can't you do those simple dribbling drills that they're doing? Why can't you do the ball mastery? Whatever it is. So it's
Mhm.
essential you learn and understand how important that individual training is, because not everyone's going to have the opportunity to go to those academies. And you can look at players who've gone to the top who so many of them didn't, were on the streets where, you look at almost any player from Africa who made it to the top level. Like, you think they were in crazy academies at 8, 9 years old? Most of them were not. You look at certain players from South America, they're playing on the streets. The reason why is almost every Brazilian and Argentinian player so technically gifted? They play every single day on the streets. They're getting the touches, you
Yep.
know? It's not down to if you're in this academy or not. I mean, if you have that opportunity, take it. But all of that can be bridged by you individually training, by you getting the ball down at your feet and getting the touches on the ball and doing the drills. That'll all be bridged. Again, there's no magical quality to being in these places. They're just, in the past, like if you were in the 80s, I get it because we don't know what they're doing. But in this day and age, you have so much film, so
There's
many.
no reason why you don't have the information, really.
You have the information. Exactly. You have it. And then it's down to you just to be like, how bad do you want it? Is this something you love? Is this something you truly want to do? And you can replicate that to the best of your ability. And if you do that, you will develop. You have to.
Yeah.
That's the game.
And they keep coming with with the excuses as well. So it's like if you tell them, like, listen, here's what you can do and so, they'll be like, well, I don't have this. Okay,
Yeah.
well, you can do this and this. Well, I don't have this either. Listen, Tommy, I'm hearing a lot of I don't have this. You don't need. There is a Tommy. I'm looking behind your screen and I see you have a plasma TV. So I guarantee you, whoever's in Brazil who's making it to the top tier level
Yeah,
doesn't have that
exactly.
TV. So it's a matter. It's like for me, I think poverty is the best and worst thing in sports because just like in basketball, how many of those athletes came from the hood? And then how
Mhm.
many in terms of soccer came from poverty who are the greatest? Like I think if you name
Most.
the top 5 in history,
Most. Yeah.
it's like, I don't know. I don't think Zidane came for it. I think maybe he
No,
did,
he
but
did.
he did. Then it's
Yeah.
Pele, Messi, every Brazilian, every Argentinian, even the Europeans, some of them as well. I mean, it's I think people don't understand from the poverty. It's like, listen, those people in poverty don't have anything going for them. Like
No.
that's it. They're not worrying about school and homework. Like Ronaldo, the Portuguese one, he came from poverty, and I remember when I was watching his documentary, he would be saying his mom would be telling him to come inside to do his homework, and he would lie
Mhm.
about it to go play soccer and stuff. I'm like you have to be sacrificing some stuff to do that. And like for me, like if you are a middle class citizen, you are in the best position to pretty much to do it because not only can you have the academic support and the fallback you have for it, but also do you know that you could actually play soccer probably after school at your school, or there's some local area that you can, there's a park somewhere, and it's like, well, I
Mhm.
don't have any goals. Are you kidding me? You just use some
Or
pair
it's
of cleats.
cold or, something,
Yeah,
you
you can
know.
make a goal out of anything. It's like you don't need to have like a 30-foot structure that will took 3 months to build that has all Cruyff Stadium name on it or to actually to be playing. Like
Yeah.
I've actually it's actually funny. I actually got to play with like I went to this soccer camp over and I think like in it was Bitburg, Germany, and we went outside. This was like after we had like a 2-hour session and everyone was dead, but all the kids who wanted to keep playing, we went out there. We didn't have a ball, and we all got a pair of our socks and we made it into a ball,
Yeah.
and we played until like we virtually couldn't really even see each other anymore. But luckily, all the socks most of them were white, so we could see the ball. some of us were hitting each other at some point, but it was just like the moment you stop finding excuses, I guarantee you, in anything you do, you'll be successful at it. And I think
Exactly.
that's a
It's all
big
about perspective.
component to your to the. I don't want to keep saying law of attraction, but that's the only way of saying it. But I'm just gonna say to attracting what you want. That's just a better way of saying that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways. I mean, I don't, the universal laws, you could be whatever. But it's true, if you have a vision and you focus and you do everything you can towards it and you stop making excuses, I argue that, and I've seen so many examples of this, that it's law that it has to come to pass in some way, or, that something's going to happen. Um, like you're saying, like there are people who, like you guys were using socks. I've seen videos of like kids in Africa making balls out of just like random stuff they find, like and obviously anyone who's watching my videos and making excuses is not in that situation, because the kids that are doing that, they probably don't have cell phones. They're not watching YouTube. That's not probably what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, you become your own worst enemy at that point, because honestly, if you have a ball and some space, you are in a very small percentage of people that actually have that. It may not seem like that because we're always looking at all these other people that, we look on Instagram at the kid in the academy on the amazing grass pitch. And it's like, yeah, that's great. That's the 0.0000001%. And you know what? Let's not take that away from him. Good for him. There's no need to compare yourself or be jealous. That's not going to help you
Yeah.
out at all. It's like, look at what you do have and make the most of it. And if you do that, I guarantee things will start to change to the point where you will have more opportunities to expand that at some point, right? But if you keep focusing on your current reality and your current so-called, reasons you can't do it, you're going to stay in those reasons. You're going to find more and more excuses when opportunities come your way to just root yourself in the excuses. Like, I didn't get good because there was no field near me. I'm like, well, what if you, found a freaking parking lot or something? Like I used to, just train in a parking lot sometimes, just because there was a wall there and it was easy to dribble,
Yeah.
like because just in my area there was a grass pitch, but it was abysmal, so I stopped using it. But if that was all I had, I could have used that, and like there's so many other situations where you can do that. There's really, like, when you start developing the mentality of there are no excuses, things will start to shift for you. And it's hard when you're used to making them, but again, it's weighing the options of, do I want to be someone who is making excuses to the end of his life or her life, or do I want to be someone who went, despite my circumstances, I decided to do everything I can. And I guarantee you, if you do that and you develop that mentality, your circumstances will change.
And
They will.
experiences will take you over. Like you
Yeah.
can say and we can say what we've done and stuff and be okay and follow through what we say, is because, like, listen, we've been in those situations, and we've been in situations where we just look back on it now and it's like kind of not a laugh, but it's just like, I don't regret it. It taught me
Hmm.
something. And like
Yeah.
to this day, if I had to redo high school again, I already have it in my head. If I had to do school again in 7th grade and 8th grade, I would have done track. In 9th grade for the fall season, I would have done cross country. In the winter, I would have done wrestling. In the spring, I would have done soccer for all
Yeah.
the years, just so I can prepare to play against people at the physical level of the
Yeah.
spring soccer season would do. And like that kind of thinking, it's like, I want the kids to understand that now, because I've seen so many on my soccer team. I was the only player who played all year round. For my senior year,
Yeah.
I was the only player who played soccer all year round. That let me know that I was like, listen, I'm the only one taking this seriously. And to this day, I was voted captain. I regret it. I regret being captain to this day. I wish I never took that armband. I wanted it back then because in my head I thought, you know what? If I'm captain, they'll listen to me. It's what I deserve. But seeing back on it now, it made me have to worry about a lot more than I needed to. And looking back on my high school now, I should have focused a lot more on myself and not worry about high school as if it was the meaning of life. Like it doesn't matter. And I didn't get it until the end of soccer season, the last day, like the minute we got knocked out, I wasn't even like crying. I was just sitting there. I was just like, it's over. In my head, I was just thinking it's over. And I just thought about it's over. And it was amazing because it's like, there's no kid who's not a senior or who hasn't graduated is going to experience this feeling. So it's like, it's up to us to just repeatedly say it and hope to God or hope to whoever that they actually take on what we tell them.
Yeah.
And it's like these mini goals of like, oh, I want to win my high school championship. Okay, what are you doing your freshman year? What are you doing your sophomore year? What's your goals for there? What are you doing to work on that? If you're not fast enough, what are you doing off the soccer season? Because you're not going to get faster playing soccer all year round. That's not what you don't do that with a team. You do that, you improve your technical skills probably and your teamwork skills. But if you want to improve on your speed, you need to be in that gym. You need to be doing sprints at your individual training sessions or something. You need to be working by yourself or working to improve with you just by yourself or getting someone to help you. But to this day, I don't think kids realize how much it's going to take until they look back on it. It's like, I should have done this or I could have done that. Like to this day, like I told you, I look back and I'm like, I could have done that, but I'm glad I didn't because I'm happy where I am right now. I'm not satisfied like with where I am actually. I want to go higher, but it's like compared to where I could have been if I would have made a lot worse decisions. And I'm sure you look back on where you could have gone if you could have gone if you made worse decisions. I
Yeah.
think you're happy where you are. I mean, man, you're in Thailand, man. Like that's a win in my book. That's a win.
Yeah, no, I'm very happy. Like you said, I think that's a good attitude is being happy but not satisfied because um, I'm happy. I'm happy on my way to the things I'm moving towards because I don't see the point in being like coming from this place of negativity while you're going for those things. I enjoy the moment and each moment, or I try to, that we're getting there. But yeah, no, you don't become satisfied because, I think we're all inclined to grow and evolve and keep pushing and see what we can do and seeing, how much we can, achieve, all this kind of stuff. And that's one of the things that makes life so cool, which is why, teaching kids to be proactive is so important because the younger they can do that, the younger they can, hopefully avoid certain mistakes. But like if I made the mistakes I made at 16 at like 11 or 12, I would have been much more prepared by the time I got to 16, for example, right?
Yeah.
Or 18 or insert, whatever it is, right? Because you're always going to make mistakes. I mean, I think one of the biggest lessons is not trying to avoid mistakes, not deliberately making them, but putting yourself in situations where you might, but that's fine. It's learning and understanding that's okay. And the sooner you can be proactive, yeah, mistakes will come in, but wins will come in as well, and growth will come in as well. And the sooner you're doing that, I think the better. Because if you're doing that in this day and age, you should be doing that younger again because of the information you have. And imagine like going back to your high school, or even before. Like imagine you're 12 or 13 and starting all of that, and then by the time you graduate high school, you've learned everything that you've learned, or maybe even you're in high school at 16, you've already learned so many lessons. You know how much you can go forward with that, right? And that's the advantage of being proactive and not being afraid to make mistakes, because that crippling fear is gonna. I mean, this is the lesson throughout this whole thing we're doing here. It seems to be one of the biggest lessons. But it's just don't be afraid to take action. Don't be afraid to go after what you want. At the end of the day, who cares when anybody else wants for you? It's your life. It's what you get to do. It's at the end of. You're not gonna care when you're like 95 and you look back at that time you took that chance and it didn't work out. You'll look back and be like, shit, I should have taken that chance. Or something like that. So you'll never regret the shots you take.
I
You'll
hope
only
I'm
regret
dead
the
by
ones.
95. I really
Yeah.
hope I'm dead. That's
We
the
don't want to
moment
make
I
it
can't.
95, man. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, the moment I can't walk, I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm willing to call it a day. I don't need anybody to change my, my messes. I don't want that. I don't want to
Yeah,
let
yeah.
anyone really do that.
Well, we'll just say whatever age you're like, I said, I'm out. You want to look back at those. You're gonna look back at like, wow, that was a tough decision, but I wanted to do it, and I took the chance, and maybe it didn't work out that time in the way I wanted, but the lessons I learned from that were incredible, and were a springboard for future successes or whatever. Um, and I just want like so much for someone. I mean, even if you're a little older, it doesn't matter. but just to get that message, because nothing is going to, again, like we want to become self-responsible, self-authorizing, not having other people, waiting for someone else to do something for us. You
Hmm.
can have people come in and help you and absolutely be open to receiving that, but you can't, you have to take ownership. And the sooner you can do that, I mean, the sooner things will start happening for you. And it won't a second before that. And that's what I've learned in my own life and just like through other people's as well. Like just nothing's going to happen a second before that. We think it will because maybe a little something happens, and
Yeah.
but then it's like, look, everyone's very concerned on their own story and their own thing. We always think everyone's looking at us and critiquing our every move. They're not. They're too concerned about their next move.
Yeah.
So it's like the minute you can finally be like, wow, I'm in control of my life. I get to make each choice I make. And you start doing it, even if there's fear, you're going to be, if I'm still scared sometimes, I do something, I'm like, oh, what are people going to think? It's not about like, you're not going to be scared. It's about like, yeah, I'm still going to do it, and then you'll realize after you do it, like, oh man, I was sweating over nothing, but
Yeah.
like that like mentality is, again, like if I could teach anybody anything, it would be that. It would just be that self-authorization, just going out and doing it kind of mentality.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was in New Mexico, I picked up on two things that I don't think that's gonna leave me in my life. One, I already have terrible memory. I have terrible memory. My brother can attest to it. It's just I have really bad memory. So when something bad happens, if it happened a week ago, I forgot it happened.
Yeah.
I've already learned from it, and it's just like, listen, it happened. My thing caught on fire. That's cool. It happened last week. And
Yeah.
then the second thing I learned was, and I'll never forget this, definitely, is that regardless of anyone's opinion of me, I don't take it on. So regardless if anyone compliments me or anyone criticizes me, I don't value their opinion. I don't care about it. I don't take on anyone else's opinion of me,
Mhm.
regardless of its compliment or regardless of it if it's a negative critique, because it's just someone else's opinion. And
Yeah.
that was something that came on me because for me personally, that was something that was really critical for me. I'll never say that that's going to work for everyone because some people are like super confident when they're, in high school and stuff like that. Maybe they're overconfident. But for me, it was just like I valued people's opinions too much. And now, if anything, I may care too less about it. That's probably the biggest critique. People have people say like, man, you don't seem to care. And it's just like, listen, I'm trying to find the balance. I'm still young. I went from
Yeah.
caring too much to not caring at all. And, it's a battle every day, day to day, but I like to think I'm going to win the war soon. And
Yeah.
of those two, I'm sure there's going to be more to come, but those two are like two biggest things because in terms of the time, I'm a very impatient person
Mhm.
until I really started focusing on, attracting things to me. And I pretty much trust that. I trust that as much as I trust like my father, and I trust my father more than anyone in the world. And
Mhm.
it's just easy for me. Like I picked up a client today and I was just watching a game and this guy messaged me and he was just like, "Hey, I'm interested in your training." I'm like, cool. Let me finish this game first, though. And
Yeah.
it's little things like that, and it's like people. I don't think people could just grasp that amount of faith in something so easily. And
It's it's great that you're at that point because like a lot of people definitely struggle with that because the doubt, right? Or they put
yeah,
so much importance on something that they actually push it away from themselves. And that's really cool. You get a client, which will like some people be like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Or they'll be like, I hope I don't mess it up. I hope I don't mess it up. And you're just like, cool. All right, I'm back to the game. That's an incredible attitude. That's an incredible thing to cultivate because again, you're not putting so much importance on it that you're like making it a life or death thing, which that kind of energy, that kind of mentality only makes you not show up as the best version of yourself when you're there because now you're like, oh, what are they going to think about me, whatever. No, you just show up and you do your thing to the best of your ability, and you don't have all this outside
you're not
noise
stressing
like
about it.
affecting you. Yeah, exactly. You're calm, you're composed, you're in the pocket, you're doing your thing, and that's it. That's just what you do. It's just normal. It's normal that this stuff comes in. It's normal that I coach and help these people. It's normal. I'm not going to put so much weight on it that it's, weighing me down. And that's awesome, man, because there's, that you have that mentality. Like, would you say you're 20, 21?
20. I'm gonna turn
Yeah,
21 next
I mean,
year.
that's awesome. Like that, to cultivate that kind of attitude already is just going to be huge as you move forward. That you're already, bought into these ideas, these universal principles, and you're not getting worked up about those things. You're normalizing it, which means more of it will come in. Because you're not pushing it away, which is awesome. I
Right.
love to see that. I love to see someone who's doing that because not
Yeah.
not a lot of people are doing it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I had a client the other day I was on the phone call with, and he was one of the people who was thinking it was going to happen in a week. And I was telling him, and I love this analogy. I can't with it, and I think I'm going to keep it. I told him, I was like, listen, what you want to attract, it's as if you want your car fixed. You don't
Mhm.
bug the mechanic. You let him know that you want it fixed. You let him know how much you're willing to do to get it fixed. But then when he says, I got to get to work, you're not going to stare at him and watch him the whole time when he's fixing the car.
It's
Leave it
his job
alone.
to fix the car.
Leave it
It's
alone.
it's exactly. I like to say this, and it's going to get a little woo woo for people, but whatever. You can't micromanage the universe. If you do that, you're stifling the process that you have no control over anyway. But everyone's trying to, like, you're like a bad boss, and the universe is trying to do something. You're like, okay, this is what I want, and this is, I'm trying to attract these things. Here you go. And instead of
Yeah.
releasing it, you're like around the corner, like, hey, what's up, universe? How's that thing coming along? Oh, you got it? Don't interfere. Okay. Then you come back like 10 minutes later. It's like, let it, it's like if you were going to the mechanic and you're like, yeah, are you sure you're supposed to be screwing that in that plate? And you know nothing about cars. Like, you're supposed to be screwing that
Yeah.
in there? I don't know,
Eventually,
because
the
I have no
mechanic's gonna quit. Eventually,
Yeah,
the
the mechanic,
mechanic's gonna be like, "That's enough. I'm good. I'm
you're
tired."
disrupting the process. The mechanic's eventually going to be like, here's your money. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. And so, yeah, it's a good analogy because it's exactly the same thing. Your job is to do your part of, and again, this is going to be woo-woo for people, but co-creative process that you have with the universe, with the law of attraction, whatever you want to call it. You come to your side and don't step on the other side and don't get impatient. Let it happen in the timing that's supposed to happen. But like the alternative is you try and interfere and it takes longer or it doesn't happen, because when you interfere, you are actually conveying doubt. Because
Yeah.
why would you check up on the mechanic? Because you're doubting that he's going to do a good job, or that he
Hmm.
can't do it, that you have to somehow get in there and do it. So that's awesome, man, that you're doing that, because that's I don't meet many people who do that. Let's just say that. You know, it's that understand these things, but it's I would hope that um, that more and more people are becoming aware of it, and hopefully maybe even through this, more and more people will become aware of how to not trip themselves up and how to allow that process to just happen naturally.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't be on this if I'm the youngest of five, and I can definitely say I wouldn't be where I am today because I've only had like one mentor, but I've had so many other people help me, from like
Mhm.
brothers to sister to like family members to just friends, and it's just been like, I have to say, like, where I am right now, I wouldn't say I deserve to be here. I would just say I'm blessed, lucky to be here.
Yeah.
And like in my eyes, I think of the five children, I think it's kind of I always had in my head is, you know what, of us five, I'm the youngest. It's kind of like, it's not like it should be said, but it's like, listen, if I don't do better than these guys, I'm honestly gonna be mad at myself because I'm the one who's gonna watch their mess ups. Like, I should be doing better than they do. And in my head, I'm thinking, you know what? They've helped me get so far, and that was another
Yeah.
thing I had to get through to this, because the law of the universe thing. Like, I had a mentor for that, and a lot of these kids, I'm not so mad at them because they don't just completely buy it, because I didn't completely buy it at first. I had someone who was with me. Like, luckily, people say, "Oh, who was your mentor?" Oh, just some guy I met. No, my mentor was my father. So it was like I had to
Yeah, it
see him
sounds like
every day.
he understands
So
the
it's like,
process, like that kind of process, which is huge to have that, someone, especially your father, someone you look up to for most people, right? to tell you that. That's incredible. You know, that's
Yeah.
uh that's some good parenting right there.
Yeah, yeah, he tries, he does his work. I mean that's I did. I know you said you did. You know, you didn't want to talk. This is a lot of weird stuff, like
I
depending
mean,
on
I'm fine with it,
this.
man. It's like
I'm completely.
yeah, I'm completely
I'm
fine
good
with
with
it.
it.
There'll be some who like get to the soccer stuff, but this is all encompassing, and it's a bit it's sometimes larger. You know, like I love football so much, but this is a thing you can take into football and everything else as well. So I mean, I could talk about this stuff for days, because
Same.
it's just like it's so impactful on people when they start to understand how this works, and the transformation you can go through when you understand this and you actually embody it and buy into it, and then finally when it clicks, because I had the same doubts in the beginning, but when it clicked, like when I saw it, I'm like, holy crap. And I was looking at examples in the world, like of how, why is it that some people are like just living lives that they love and these people are not? What is going on? And then you break it down, you're like, wow, it's the same thing every time for these people
Yep.
and like the same principles for these people. And then you start doing the same thing and seeing similar. So it's like once you have that moment, once there was someone I like, a teacher, who said, once you crack the eggshell and you can see out, you can't patch it back up. You've seen too much. Like
Yep.
once it clicks, then it's just about breaking more to shell and getting yourself out of there completely. That's it. You can't go back. You can't
Yeah.
undo
You
that.
don't want the red pill, or was it blue pill? I always forget.
As a red pill, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You've been red pill. That's it. You've seen things for what they truly are, and that's going to be. And again, a lot of people will hear it and they haven't had that experience yet. And again, it's not like it's hard to explain too because it's not necessarily an intellectual thing all the time, and sometimes it's just an experiential thing.
Hmm.
But once you have it, um, it'll change the course of how you move in the world and how you move in your own life. And it's
Even having a journal is so important. I didn't realize
yeah.
how crucial it was to have a journal, but it really is. It's like I don't think people
Oh
think
yeah.
like, oh, it's like the diary. It's like no, no, no. And even so, you shouldn't be giving shit to diaries. That's actually powerful stuff,
Yeah,
anyways. So
yeah,
it's like,
that's your thoughts on paper. And
yeah,
I don't know why this came up, but do you know who Clark Cagley is, refusing to settle?
I do
You might
not.
not. Oh, okay, because that's a quote he always uses. He's like, because he loves journaling. He's always like, oh, this isn't your sister's diary. This isn't a diary. We're journaling. It's not some girly thing. I thought maybe you heard that there, but it's so true. Journaling is there's a power in writing things down, pen
Yeah,
to paper, writing down your goals, writing down your visions, getting them out of here and onto the page so you can look at them often. There's a magic behind that, and yeah, more people do that. It's just like it's amazing if you ever look back at some of your old journals. Because I've looked, sometimes I'll find one from like a year or two ago, and I'll be like, "Holy crap, that came true! That came true! That came true!" Like it's hard to explain, but it just almost every single time I look back and I'm like, "Wow, I had this goal and I wrote it here and I looked at it however many times. Now I'm living basically in the vision I had, and you're looking back at almost
yeah,
like a previous version of you that wrote this thing down. Like that was the pen to paper, that version of you wrote as you're in this new version of yourself that this one was had a vision of. And it's again, it's like cracking that eggshell a little more. You start to see it and you're like, and it's so simple. Like none of this stuff is like
it's not complicated.
a
But like,
journal and learn how to journal. Like it's how hard is it really? It's you're a few simple, consistent practices away from a lot of change. That's it's not complex. It's
yeah,
yeah.
it's one of the it's yeah, like I got it's just one of the best things is like I remember when I was like 11 years old, I would be up for probably about 7 hours just completely watching tactical analysis videos because I love to
Hmm.
do it. It wasn't like, oh, you know what, I should watch this. I love watching that. I eat it up. So for me, becoming a soccer coach, I didn't realize it until I was like probably 16 that that's what I wanted to do. And it was funny
Hmm.
because I realized I remember the exact moment I wanted to do it. We were playing a game, and our coach he's an incompetent coach. He still is today, and I say that he ruined a lot of people's senior year. Not mine, luckily. But what he did was he took a striker off, and it was a bad decision. And I yelled, which in hindsight was a bad decision for me. I yelled like, "What? Why would you take him off?" And he took me off, and he was basically yelling. He's like, "Listen, I'm the coach. You're the player. You don't ever like yell at me, that kind of stuff." And he was right about that. Like I military brat, so I completely understand the chain of command. But I knew right then, I was like, I want to coach because I don't want to ever I don't want to be a player who has a coach like you. I want to be a coach that players can come to with ideas, and instead of shooting them down, I would rather explain to them why it doesn't work. Or if it does work, it sounds interesting, maybe I can put it into play. But I that's when I realized I wanted to be a coach. And for me, I think it was, the universe really, and once again, other people listening to this stuff now is like, okay, wow, this is interesting and kind of gnarly stuff a little bit. I put so much work into trying to learn the game that by the time I was like, 18 years old and I actually got like my first coaching job, it was like, well, how long have you been coaching? It's like, I haven't been coaching long, but I've been studying the game since I was 11. And I didn't even know I wanted to be a coach until like 2 years ago. So it was like, that's when I realized I was like, this is what I was meant to do. It was what I was meant to do, and I didn't even know it. And that was one of those moments I did have of like, thank you, universe, like thank you, all that, like, because I love doing it. And if I have to do it over again, I would still want to coach because honestly, playing is fun. I really enjoy it, but for me, I love helping players improve. I love seeing players conquer their weaknesses. Playing is just like you have to deal with a lot of bullshit when you're playing. A lot of personalities, a lot of people on the field right then. But in terms of coaching, you still have to deal with that, but it's more so you're more so in charge of that. With players, you're more so when you're a player, you can only do so much to your extent. So even if you scored a hat trick, if your team is not competent and they just make bad decisions, you still lose that final.
I had a game like that once actually. Yeah.
See, yeah,
Where you,
like moments
yeah.
like that, and that's what infuriates me. And I'm like, I'd rather coach and lose a final because I would know that it was really my fault, and I'll take that over me scoring a hat trick and then the team faltered because I can't play defense and play attack at the same time. Like those kind of scenarios. That's what really drove me to do it as well. And like to this day, like you said, I'm only 20, you're only 27. We're still young. Obviously, you got years on me, but at the end of the day, it's like I can only see you going so much further and you having I can see the fact that you're in Thailand. There's no way for me that you can't be in Thailand and tell me you don't have a positive outlook right now. You don't have any positive feeling right now. You can't, because I remember when I first watched your video that I found out you were in Thailand. I was like, this man has to be happy. There's no way he wouldn't just leave the States. It's like if you were in Brazil, the same thing. It wouldn't matter.
Yeah, it's
You still there, David?
well, like you're saying with the coaching, just go after. Did I go out? Am I here? You there?
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think my Thailand internet's not the best, so that's the only drawback. But it's like you're saying. It's just you go unapologetically go after what you want, and like you were saying with your coaching, you just within 2 years you got a job in coaching. That where some people might take forever because I don't whatever reason like they don't think they deserve it or they don't think they can or whatever. It's just I want to come to Thailand, and so I'm like, all right, I'm out of here, and that's how I try and make decisions now. I'm not trying to weigh like the what would that look like or whatever. It's like if I want to go do something, I'm gonna do what I can to go do it. And that's how I think. And again, this is the self-authorization thing we've been going over. Self-ownership. No, you're the only person responsible for your happiness is yourself. And if that's the case, yeah, and your success. So go out and just do whatever it is. Who cares? Like if someone's like, oh, you can't do it because you don't have this experience, well then go get the experience. Or, do whatever it is you need to do. Don't let anyone tell you you can't. Like, what do they know? Like why would you let, your teammate or your friend or someone who whatever just see like, hey, you can't do that. You know, when I want to go to Thailand, people are like, why? Like, it doesn't matter what you think or what my why is. That's for me. You know, like this is what I want to go do. I don't need any justification to explain to you why I want to go do it. Like if I'm explaining it to like friends or parents or just people who are like, why would you want to do that? I'm like, because I'm living a different life. That's what I want to do. It doesn't have to be what you want to do, and that's great. You go do what you want to do. But yeah, it's just when you actually focus in on it and you stop apologizing for the things you want and just start going for them,
Yeah.
they will start to happen. And that's why I guarantee, years from now, I'll be doing something, else I want to do. I'll be, who knows, when I map that out. But I know that I'm going to get there at some point because I'm not going to try and justify it or allow people's opinions to be like, you can't do that. I'd be like, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And like, you want to be a soccer player? Great. I don't care if your parents or your friends say you're not good enough yet, or if you want to be a coach, or if you want to, you want to go to you want to get a D1 scholarship. Obviously there's time limits on some of those. If you're 25, you can't do that. But if you're like 13 and you've never been on an incredible club, but you want a D1 scholarship, you absolutely can do that. You want to become a professional. Like I was talking about the people who do the challenges on YouTube. Brandao was far away from doing that. He's just signed a contract like, I don't even know, a few weeks ago in England. So and he's another guy who also he has belief in a higher power, so to speak, in a similar thing to like law of attraction, things of that nature. And within a year and a half, he went from not even close to a contract to now he's playing professionally. Like, and of course, a million doubters. I used to go in the comments and look at what people were saying, and it's like, good job he didn't listen to them because now he's living the vision. And then suddenly all those people doubting you are like, I knew you could do it. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Like, so you just can't. People will always comment based on how they see reality now, not the vision you have. And so unless you want to stay in the reality you're in right now, ignore what they're saying and just keep your mind on that vision, whether it's for you coaching or whatever you're going to do in the future with that. For Brandao was a contract, for anyone listening, whatever it is. Focus more on that internal reality you have of that vision than you pay attention to the external, doubts that are coming from everything around you. It's all about what you focus on. Whatever you focus on is what's the saying? Where focus goes, energy flows. So.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I've never heard that. That's good.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. It's catchy, and it's so true. There's a million and one things going on in the world right now that you can focus on. But whatever you focus on is what's going to grow. I mean, I could focus on the absolute terrible things going on in the world, or I can focus on the amazing things going on in the world. I can focus on the critiques and the criticism coming in, or I can focus on the things that are going to get me to that next level. I only have time and energy to focus on one. Also, you can't focus on two things. You can't be happy and sad at the same time. You're not going to be angry and like grateful at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So you can choose what you focus on. You're not going to be a victim and also responsible in the moment. Focus on one. And I would suggest focusing on the positive, the self-responsibility, the self-ownership, the how you're going to get to that vision instead of all the ways how you're not. Because whichever one you focus on is going to be the one that actually comes to fruition. And that's the game. It might take, you got to have some patience, it might take a year, but how much is a year in the grand scheme of things? That year is going to go by either way.
A year is a lot to a 13-year-old, apparently.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But it's like, dude, you're going to be 14 either way. Like, you're going to be 13 to 14. Would you rather be 14 having actually invested in this vision, or would you rather be 14 being exactly the same way, maybe even a little worse than you were when you were 13? Like, it's going to happen either way.
If you can wait 3 years or more to drive a car or get your license or something, I don't see how you can't just wait at least a year for something that you want. That boggles my mind.
It's like, what's the alternative? It's things stay the same, or you can invest in that thing. And yeah, you got to have some patience, but I don't know why it's how we got into the mindset of things need to happen in 2 weeks, and if they don't, it's crap, or it's BS, or it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Nothing works that way.
Yeah, it's just patience and faith. I don't think you can. I've never seen someone who's been a patient person who hasn't had faith. I've never seen that. There's always been someone. Whenever I see someone who's patient, they always have faith in something. Whether it's this,
Yeah.
whether it's someone like that, someone they believe close to, or something like that. But there's always been that relationship that I've always seen, and I can't tell every 13-year-old, listen, I expect you to have absolute patience because you're 13. Come on, let's be real. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
your attention span is already as poor as it is right now. So
This is probably more directed at older, like 20 somethings. Because yeah, at 13, like you're learning, you're a kid, you're not you don't need to be so worried about that. But like you'd be surprised how many people like in their like the Gary V audience, the people even in their 30s who just they want to they want things to come next week instead of going through the process of building. And that can be a very fun process also, by the way. Like you can totally struggle through it or you could totally enjoy it, either way. Anyway, man, you want to do one more question because I'm just realizing the time. I got to get going.
I actually have to get going too. Actually,
I do.
you went over like everything. All the questions kind of had we kind of went over all the answers, everything that was kind of needed. I just wanted to go over a few other stuff. I'm sorry, I was enjoying the conversation a lot more than I really thought I would. It was
Yeah.
definitely, I think we talked for like 2 hours, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think so, man. Yeah, that's what happens when you get in the flow.
Yeah,
It
this is the longest conversation of a Liverpool fan I've ever had. This is
yeah, longest conversation with an Arsenal fan I've ever had.
okay. Well, all right. I'll see you during the. I'm not gonna lie. There's no way y'all gonna lose the Premier League title. If you do, I promise you, I'll be the first person to text you say it's all over. It'll
It's
be the
no,
first
the
person.
the club might as well go into administration at that point because the amount of like almost titles this one looks the best, but like there's I think three that I've lived through where it's like we're gonna get it, and then just at the end something happens. But I think we're gonna, you know, I'm not gonna say any definites, but it'll take like a cataclysm, right now to stop this from happening. So
Yeah.
hopefully, man.
Hopefully. Oh, did you just hold up? Let me just